Hi, I'm Rebecca Parks with my co-host Chris Clifford, and welcome to another Sacred Wisdom podcast, the first of 2026. So, you know Sue Cimino, and our other guest is Dr. Paula Love, and Paula is our North Carolina coordinator. So, Dr. Love, the name says it all. As a very young girl, she started raising funds to help others. After over 50 years in education, there remains a driven purpose to give to others. Her journey paved the way for knowledge, skills, and abilities in such areas of teaching, public speaking, fundraising, writing publications, administering and evaluating national projects, and developing online resources and tools. All of this moulding of her life was to set the stage for a dream to move forwards. John Lennon reminds Paula that a dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together is reality. So over to Chris.
Okay, thank you, Becky. Wow, that was beautiful. And welcome back, Sue. Welcome, Paula, and welcome to all of our viewers, as Becky said, to our very first podcast of 2026. So we're excited to be here with you. And today we have very fun topics to talk about. We are going to talk about the magic of the universe. So things like serendipity and synchronicity and fate and free will, and really whatever other magic arises in our discussions. So before we delve into those topics, Paul, who is very creative, wrote a bio that's actually a magical story in and of itself. So we asked her if she would mind reading that to get us started. So thank you, Paul, and over to you.
Well, I'm not going to read it, Chris. I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of it because it's really, truly a magical journey that is along the way. When I was 7 years old, I rallied a whole community around cystic fibrosis and was trying to raise funds with them. I always wanted to make a difference, always wanted to make a difference, even when I was young. Well, this I put on a play, directed all the community, had all the community involved. But guess what? My parents didn't know what I was doing. I sold all these tickets for the play. People showed up at the door. My mother was in hair curlers. I will never forget. It was back in the 50s. All these people, and they're saying, I'm here for the play. Well, we made so much money that I was known as the youngest entrepreneur. And if any of you lived in the Maryland area, the Baltimore Sun was a big newspaper, and I made the headlines of the Baltimore Sun as the youngest entrepreneur. But it didn't stop there, it continued. And Becky read some of the things that I've done. It was interesting as my life went on, and I was class president, and then I moved into the education field with lots of different experiences in raising money. But I always wanted to own my own company. So after 5 decades of working in both the government sector as well as in the private sector, I started my own woman-owned business. And I really thought that's where my dream was. I thought I truly wanted to make a difference. But you know what? The universe always has our back, and the universe is always guiding us. And the universe put my love into action when I came to CC. Because CC was where now I can take all of that. Becky, we were talking about self-reflection early on. I can take all those collective experiences and now I can move them forward. And I can move them forward in a place of love. And I really, as I reflect back, I know I was magically guided. And I know that journey is continuing. I know that journey is not ending. We were just talking beforehand. The journey continues, and we learn about ourselves and the self-growth. Becky, you had written a quote, and I'm going to read it. As we look within and engage in self-reflection, we become more open and find greater meaning in life. As we come to know ourselves better and more closely, aligned with our higher self, we open up to experiences greater serendipity and synchronicity. And I think the message here is stay open, be flexible, and just wait for the universe to guide you. Be open.
Wow, Paula, what a wonderful introduction. I absolutely love that. And you know, your work is phenomenal, and I've met you in person as well. And when we went to North Carolina, and you organized our North Carolina, which is the biggest venue for our Sacred Wisdom tour, along with a whole group of people, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And it's very exciting having you here joining us today, because you do have a lot of knowledge and experience to share. And so, yeah, no, I'm excited about what the podcast is going to bring and the conversations as well. Um, I'll leave it at that and hand it over to Sue now. Okay, over to Sue.
Well, Paula, you almost said it all, but I'll say something because I can. We are in such a pregnant time where we're all in a transition. And so people are learning, if you've lived a kind of normal life and you've stayed within boundaries, or even if you've opened up a little bit to grace, we're moving into a time where there is so much more available to you. But the key will be what you said, opening up, like opening up to more possibility. I love it in A Course in Miracles. It says, it can't teach love because that's beyond what can be taught, but it's teach like removing the blocks to the awareness of love. And I think the same thing is true when you're looking at grace or gifts from the universe, the magic of the universe, serendipity, whatever, that the key is to find the things that block you, whether it's thoughts, whether it's subconscious stuff you've been carrying, to find those, and that's the self-reflection, to find those and unlock and remove them because they're blocking your ability to go, oh, I've just been gifted something wonderful. Like I always feel, it was funny. I sat down this morning and my guys are like, don't forget to say this. One of my favorite things I learned along the way was help me to receive the help I'm being given, because we are always being given so much more than we think we deserve, than we think is possible, than we allow ourselves to receive. And when I started saying that every single day, multiple times, stuff started happening, and when I think about serendipity or synchronicity or all of those things, I feel like it's the universe, God, creation, source, all that is. I don't care how you call it, like how you think of it. It is you being given gifts to help guide you, to help move you on your way, to delight you. I have to say, I know once I realized I could ask questions and like, oh, I wonder where my keys are. Well, how did you make me look there? Once I started acknowledging the gifts I was being given, the help, the whatever, once I started acknowledging it, it started happening more. I felt like my guides up there or, whatever is going, oh, she paid attention. Let's send her some more synchronicity. Or, oh, she's going the wrong way. Let's, push her that way. Make things not work so that you don't go that way. And it's a big deal to not want it your way. Like if you will allow yourself to be guided and led, all you have to do is your intention is for the highest and best for you, and you're bringing your gifts to the world, and then see what happens, because we're on the magic of the universe is taking us on a wondrous unfolding journey, and it is quite exciting once you get used to change, because humans don't like change too much. And it's like, I always say, it's like learning to surf, like learning to go with what's coming to you and let it speak to your next steps, or you're sitting still for a moment and waiting. Does that work?
So, yeah, that's very beautiful. And gosh, we're all touching on these amazing signs and synchronicities. And I think that like you said, Sue, we receive them all the time from, God, source, great spirit, creator, whatever you're comfortable calling them, but we are receiving them all the time. I think both you and Paula touched on we have to be open to receive. And so I think that's something I know that I have reflected on, and that's a great affirmation that you gave, Sue, because what does that mean to be open to receive? And, we all want things a certain way. And I love what you said, Sue, about not getting attached to the way the particular thing that you want or the how you're going to receive it, because I think a lot of times we get these signs in the ways that we aren't expecting. I'm going to share a personal story that actually just happened to me over the last few days. So I'll give it a high level because it's very personal, but I was trying to engage in a particular transaction, I'll call it, that had a whole process that went along with it. And I wanted this particular thing. And so as I went through the process, there was an obstacle, and I'm like, okay, I can overcome these obstacles. So I overcome the first obstacle. Then there was another obstacle, and I'm like, okay, I've got this. And so I overcome that. And then after like the fourth or maybe fifth thing that happened, I was like, oh, these are signs. It's a pattern, and this isn't the thing that I'm supposed to have. So I just gave things and moved on, and then something way better for me arose out of that. And so it was a really, really good reminder that when we can receive the signs and guidance that both guide us towards something and be able to recognize when it's guiding us away from something, that really we're in a flow with life, and life becomes much more beautiful because we're open to receiving the perfection that the universe wants to give us.
Chris, as I heard you too, one of the things I think we need to remember is to trust and have faith in the guidance along the way. That so many times we want to fix it, we want to try to solve it ourselves. And sometimes we just have to trust the process. You were telling this story, I think a lot of times when I'm preparing for, I love to do, Becky said about the spiritual topics, I love to be real creative and look for things, and I try to make it happen. I'm so excited about it and I just want it to happen. But I found if I let it go, if I just let it go and sit with it, these things just come, magical things. And all of a sudden, it just all fits in. It fits in so beautifully. And, it may or may not work when we're on a Zoom call. That's okay. It's like Sue said, I just let it go and I let it happen. But it's a beautiful experience when we trust and have faith that it's going to work out.
I love that, Paula and Chris and Sue. Wow. It's interesting. I can tell, we all know anyway, but I can tell by listening to your stories and your thoughts on the matter that you really do, all of you, not surprising really, have a very advanced outlook and perspective. It's more common to experience from people a kind of, oh, nothing's going right for me, everything's going wrong. And if we are living in what we call the 3D matrix, the world that's like controlled and managed, and we live in our boxes, our lives, and it's just the routine of going over and over every day, and it's like every day seems like the last, and every week seems like the last, and so on. That can be, some people find that comforting. Some people, and I'd say everyone in CC, would find that really boring. But Paula's just popped off. Maybe her connection's broken. But once you experience something which pushes you out of this norm, out of this routine, then that gives one the opportunity to explore further. I mean, we all have something, whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's an illness, or whether it's choosing to change course in one's career, or whatever it is. But so I was just another experience. So for me this morning, my daughter phoned me up very early in the morning, and quite panicky. She's my youngest, and said, Mom, I've just missed the train. I was 3 minutes late for the train, and now I have to wait an hour and a half. And the next train costs less, but I've just paid for the more expensive ticket. And it was just like a whole load of calamities and panics, and everything's a disaster, which one would, is understandable from a young person who's just starting to branch out in the world. But we had a bit of a chat, and within 5 minutes, she was able to really put it in perspective and say, no, it's okay, because I had phoned my boss and she said it's fine. I've never done this before. I'll stay late at work. And I said, don't worry about the lost £8. Don't worry about the difference, these things. I said, but what can we learn from this? And she said, well, because she said, well, it's not my fault because the queue was too long. The queue was too long for the ticket, and I can't buy a ticket on the train because there's a barrier. You have to pay to go through the barrier. And I said, so what do we learn from this? He said, leave home 5 or 10 minutes earlier than I did. And I said, yes. There are ways of avoiding this kind of situation. But it's just like, there's always lessons in life. When something goes wrong or not according to plan, there's always something that we can learn or gain from it. And quite often it's not as disastrous as we think. Sometimes it can be very challenging, but there's always different degrees, So we'll see. If she keeps missing, that there'll be bigger universal consequences. But if that's just a one-off and she's learned the lesson from that, that's just an aside. But it's something that's, it's a sign from the universe. There always are some. And I find that when I'm in my everyday life, I tend not to look for the signs so much. I'm just doing my routine. And that's sort of going back to what I was talking about when we were in our 3D lives and we're all in a bit of a routine. I tend not to look so much for the signs. But the minute I step out of that, like when I went on the tour to America, the signs were popping up everywhere because I was like, traveling on my own and, doing things I'd never done before. And it was all scary and exciting. The universe was showing me signs. Like the very first thing was my first hotel room that I had to be in on my own before I caught the flight over, which is a big scary thing for me. The room number was 1111. And then when we got to America, and the room number of my first place was 111. I mean, that's a sign from the universe. And there were plenty more, I can tell you. Like, the plane arrived. It was due to arrive at 3:30 in the afternoon, USA time, and it arrived at 2:56, which just happens to be my personal lucky number. So there was lots of little signs, way more than that, loads of signs in nature. So when you start to look out for the signs, whatever they are, and start to recognize that something is a sign that you have the backing of the universe, whether it's going well or badly, you have the love and have the support every step of the way. And I think for me, one of the most magical and beautiful things about being conscious in my own life journey and spiritual journey is noticing the support around me and noticing the nudges and the direction that that I'm being nudged to go in. And I don't know, it is really special because then you just can see you're opened up to just so much more, and you can just see yourself as a human being, a soul, living one life journey in perspective with the whole of humanity. And we were talking about this to some extent before we recorded. We always find that as soon as we say hello, it's like we're straight into deep conversation that should be recorded, and then we start recording. But anyway,
I love what you said about noticing and the people that come to like the map journey. One of the first things is like how to access grace. And grace to me is like the magic, the serendipity, the gifts from the whatever, however you want to call it. But one of the things I tell them to do really early on is look back at your entire life for those moments that were miraculous or like a divine intervention or an absolute gift or a blessing. Because once they start recognizing, oh, that happened there, oh, that happened, because, and I even give them, okay, it might look like this, it might look like this, it might look like this, but they start realizing, oh, it's been happening. And then as they open up, and clear the blocks, I get emails all the time. It's like, oh, I'm experiencing more miracles. I talk miracles because I came that way, but um, it's easy once you start to recognize. And I totally agree. When I travel, my awareness changes, but it's available every day, all the time. One of the things we were saying, not to expect it your way. And I just want to say, like, having a preference is fine. This would be my preference. Chris, you could have done that in your transaction. Well, actually, you did. This would be my preference, or better, or what's better, or what's more in line, or what's more for my highest and best. Because the universe, God, creation, whatever, it wants to bless you with the highest and best that you will accept. And so I also love it because even if you miss it, it will come around again. I love Chris's 4 or 5 times. If you miss it, it will come around again because its purpose, its goal is to assist you as you're doing this unfolding journey. And so I love that. One of the ways um, of asking for like opening up and not needing to do something with it. I find that if I ask a question, wow, what would be, it doesn't matter what the question is. The universe tries to answer your questions. Your divine self, your guides and helpers, everything is trying to answer your questions. So you can ask the question. This is Paula going, oh, I want something for this, but she can't make it happen. But if she just asks the question and then drop it, like just be okay. It may take an hour. It may take, in the beginning, I noticed it took like 5 or 6 years till I got my dream job that I asked for. By the time I got it, I didn't want it anymore. But asking questions is opening the door for something. This is what my preference is, or something better.
Sue, I just want to jump in because we do what is called Wisdom in Words Book Club. And in December, we invited Ian McHale to talk to us about his book. And as he began talking, we all talked about what we called wow moments. Those wow moments that we often miss in life. And I took a little break here because I thought I just had a wow moment. I moved my office. I have an office upstairs, and there's a long story about my office upstairs. For whatever reason, my Starlink doesn't work in this one place upstairs in my office. And for so long, I've tried to figure out why it doesn't work here. When I created this office, it was to be my writing room. It was to be my time to let go. It took a while for the answer to be recognized. However, today I decided I was going to move up here because I wanted to look out because I can see my whole farm. I can see everything around me. And as we were talking, my office phone went off. And of course it started. And I thought, okay, this is one of those wow moments. It's not good or bad, because what the universe was just saying, just stop, handle it, come back, do what you need to do. And I'm thinking everything that approaches us is a wow moment. I also want to go back, Chris, in the Sacred Wisdom podcast that you did in November, and we did a little clip in one of our Zoom calls of what you said, because what you said goes back to what we've been talking about. In that little clip, you reminded us to be aware, to catch yourself, to reframe it. And Sue, you reminded me just of what happened a few minutes ago. We don't label things as good or bad. We just let them go. And as I reflect on that, I keep thinking about, the first thing we need to be aware of everything that's around us. And we're so busy, Becky, you said it, in this 3D world, we're so busy, we don't look out, we don't see those beautiful moments that exist. When you were talking about coming to the Sacred Wisdom Tour, one of the beautiful magic moments that I heard from you was when you first saw that hummingbird. And the nature gives us so many signs around us. We just need to be open and aware. So, Chris, thank you for telling us to be aware. And Sue, thank you so much for reminding all of us not to label it as good or bad. It all happens for a reason.
Thank you, Paula. And actually, it's very synchronistic that you brought up reframing, because that's exactly what I thought of when Becky was telling the story about talking to her daughter and when things go wrong. And so I think it is worth just touching on briefly here too, because, you know, there's times where the outer world and our inner worlds are very chaotic and things go wrong. Like just this morning, I took my grandson to school and I'm like, okay, I have time to take him to school and then come back and get ready for the podcast. Well, he forgot his book bag. And so I didn't have the key to my daughter's house. So I'd come the whole way back home. So I've read many studies that our minds are wired to go to the negative. It's tied to the fight and flight response and everything. So initially I was like, well, am I going to have enough time? Gosh, I have to drive the whole way back home. But then to your point, Paula, with awareness, like we can train ourselves to stop, take a pause. And I reminded myself that I'm having a beautiful day and I'm getting the book bag for Lucas so he can have a wonderful day at school. And it's a beautiful day out and I can give gratitude on the ride along and get myself, prepared. And so we can teach ourselves these things, but it does take awareness first to recognize I'm going down this path. I don't want to go down this path. And once you train yourself that, you can stop it really quickly. And so that's not saying there are times where we need to feel what we feel and everything. So it's not saying that, but it's kind of like, these little things that go wrong and our mind wants to make it into, oh, your day is ruined, everything's awful, blah, blah, blah. But we just don't have to let that happen. So,
Chris, that reminds me of the time, there's a difference in saying I have to do this or I get to do this. And you're right, it depends on the outlook. I mean, yes, sometimes things are inconvenient. Sometimes you know that it'll be technically a setback, but then it always opens up to other opportunities. I mean, I remember when we had that on our tour and we're driving from Tennessee to North Carolina, and we took a wrong turn. We were in two trucks, and one truck took the right turn and our truck took the wrong turn. And it was like, shucks, we're going to be 40 minutes late or later. But then it was like immediate. It was like, well, now we get to do a different route. And now it's there must be a reason for this. It turned out for the best. There was a universal reason for it, which turned out for the best for us. And I think that's the thing, is always being open to possibilities. You never know who you're going to meet or what you could see or what you could learn. You just never know what's the next thing that's in that's in store. So there is always that. And I was also thinking as well, it's New Year and people do New Year's resolutions, but I feel a real excitement for this year, because more than with other New Year's, because it's like, and it's the same for every new day and every new minute. It's the start of the rest of my life. And it's funny how society just values, I say, younger people who are in their 20s are supposed to be like you know, they got the best chances of work and climbing the ladder. And it's like by the time you're 40, you're over the hill. And what happens to most of society who are in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond? Every new day is a start of our life, and we have the opportunity to start it anew, to do something new that gives us a younger outlook, that gives us more energy, that gives us the opportunity to have more opportunities. It's never too late to expand one's horizons. And that's what I'm saying. If we're here incarnated on Earth, there is always that real excitement of I'm alive, I've got my body, and I can do things. I can, you know, go places. You know, life can be exciting. And I think if we just remind ourselves that, then it's a good starting point. Because we forget it so often. It's like you wake up and you think, oh, you know, my back's aching, or oh, I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. No, I get to do this and I get to do that. And then I know I've got 2 hours free and I can do something different and fun, or, you know, whatever it is. But it's keeping things, it's making sure we don't get stuck in a rut, and it's making sure that we can just do something, whether it's talking to somebody like we are now, where you have a conversation that ignites an excitement for life. And I think keeping an excitement or a joy for life and whatever it may bring is one of the secrets of spiritual evolution. And as we were saying earlier, before we started recording the podcast, you know, CC is a Sue, what do you call it, Sue? A clump? And I a group of people who actually are shining their lights brighter. And we are raising the brightness for the whole of humanity, because connecting consciousness does connect, you know, what we are learning on our spiritual journeys has an impact on the whole of humanity. So it's really important not to forget that, and not to just, you know, set that aside and think, oh, it doesn't matter, or, you know, or what can I do? Because there is always something that one can do at any level. So I just wanted to say that.
And Becky,
An
there's
example. Oh.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. I'm Sue. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sue.
One example of what you're saying about connecting consciousness and what's really going on with it was if you look back at Tennessee and how all of the employees at the venue were going to their boss saying, "Who are these people? We've never met such helpful, happy, joyful people."
And grateful. They said everyone's so grateful and happy and, you know, engaging and chatty. They had never met people who were not complaining, who were not saying, can I have more of this, or where's the so and so? You know, yeah, they were really, really impressed. We had all the, you know, anyone who was like staff or catering, they were just standing and watching and listening and really interested.
And joining CC.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example that we tend to think about what can I do because we're trained for accomplishments and everything. But just to be you, like that's such a great example by shine your light, be yourself, be helpful, smile at someone. It's not that we have to do these great big huge projects or achieve these huge goals. We just need to be ourselves and share them with the world. And I know we've said this before, but on the tour, it was just so evident. All of the beautiful souls of CC who got together, you could feel the energy, and that does shift the world and it impacts humanity. And so I just want to remind every single person who's listening to this of that, just be yourself because we are making a difference.
Being that authentic self, Sue and Chris, is so critical. And Becky, the other thing I want to go back to what you said that I think is really important is always look for that inspiration and the next piece of learning that happens. We're never too old to stop growing and learning, and we need to stretch in ways like we've never been stretched before and continue that growth. And I get so inspired when I can get a topic and go with it and go with that flow and get excited about it, because I know myself I'm growing, and I know if I have that spark that I'm going to portray that spark to others. It's just going to multiply, like Chris said. It's going to go out to everyone else, just like we did at the Sacred Wisdom Tour. It goes out and it doesn't stop. That's the beauty. It continues and it's continuous. And I am so excited about 2026 and the years coming beyond that, because there is just so much yet to uncover.
There is. There's always something to learn. So what you say, yeah, there's always something to learn. And as you say, Paula, I know you're in education. This whole thing about teaching kids, you've got to teach kids, and then once you've finished school or finished university, that's it. You don't have to learn anymore. So nonsense. We are learning all the time. It's vital that we learn all the time, that we keep our brains stimulated, that we explore more. We always have to have something unknown that we need to find out, and that's part of being human. Human beings want to solve problems, want to find out what's unknown. So, Sue.
Well, and what you're saying is spot on. And part of what we'll be doing with education is unlearning, like deprogramming, like clearing a lot of the subconscious stuff that we've let keep us in that little box you were talking about, of the same thing over and over, of needing things to not change. Um, and so that's part of as I work with myself, I am affecting the rest of the human collective, which is spectacular, but I'm getting the benefit, and yet the benefit flows out. Um, I just they won't leave me alone unless I say this, and I'm sorry because it's a little bit of a downer. But when this idea of things may be working in your favor, even if they look like the worst thing that could happen, and I think of the people that missed the plane going to New York. For 9/11, it's like you never know when the thing going wrong is the universe guiding you, protecting you, engaging you with someone you wouldn't have run into. Like there's so many ways. So it's an old habit for me at this point to always go, okay, I don't know, maybe I'm late because I missed an accident, or, I don't know, but I am willing to trust that the universe has my back, and that everything is working for the good, for my highest and best. I want to say two things too, because Chris, you were talking about that being aware and reframing. It's like happy thoughts, gratitude, negative thoughts. They're both slippery slopes. They just go opposite directions. And so once you step on that path, that's the moment like you can go, oh, do I really want to go there? Because it's a slippery slope. Once you start down it, it's harder to redirect. Once you step onto the gratitude one, you know, things get really good, lots of magic of the universe. But I want to say this too. I don't know whether people have noticed. I don't know whether you guys have noticed the how the energy, how the quality of the energy is shifting on the planet. And it's been gradual over the last year and a half for sure. Maybe not quite that long, but say one of my family members that hates Christmas said, well, it was really different this year. Do you think it was, this or this? But what I realized is she was more authentic. She dropped her expectations of the old and was just more authentic and real. And so it was a whole different experience. But the point I want to make is, for everyone, if you will just look at the possibilities that are showing up for you in new ways, or even if you can't see them, if you change um your awareness or how you're looking at things, you will see that more and more is possible for each one of us now than was ever true at any other point in human history. Like more possibility is being given us so that it's easier for us to get clear, to listen, to receive, and to act in a way that blesses us and everything around us.
I think you're spot on, Sue. We do know. I mean, I'm going back to the tour. On the last slide that we had on Chris and my talk, I wanted to talk about putting everything in perspective with the universe and the galaxy, the universe, and the passing by of Three Eye Atlas. That's no coincidence, and that was set on its trajectory billions of years ago. There was a major shift in on the Earth, within the galaxy, and so on. There has been a major energy shift, and people have felt it in different ways. You can feel it or understand it at different levels. There is always the opportunity, and there was. I mean, just we haven't missed the boat. Just because if you didn't notice it, you haven't missed the boat, because it's happened. There's been a shift and a raise in awareness and consciousness. So for those that are open and receptive and willing to consider this, there's a greater opportunity to connect with that higher level of consciousness, and always recognize that it is within you, within ourselves, within our soul, within our hearts. Well, because our hearts translate the energy of the soul. I mean, yes, we do in different centers of our body, but our hearts is what's beat it and creates the toroidal field and creates the life force that the soul can live within the body. And so that is the part that can open up. And if you open up that more and understand, I say open up, but I also understand going within the depth of it. Within that, you can explore your connection to yourself, your higher self, to God, to humanity. We're all connected. None of us is isolated. None of us is separate. And that's the great illusion. And I think that illusion is falling away for many of us. And it's incredibly exciting. It really is. But maybe we just have to keep reminding ourselves of this. And this is why talking to others within Connecting Consciousness, in our Zooms, in our groups, and exploring the different topics, that's where you get the light bulb moments. That's where you find your connection. That's where you can put things in perspective. That's where your mind gets open just a little bit more, where you can explore topics and think, I like the idea of that. I don't agree with that. That's fine, because it's finding, if you find out what it is you do agree with and don't agree with, or what you keep your mind open to, then you're learning more about yourself. You may think, oh yeah, I know I love this, I know I hate that, but why? Why? And why are your loves and hates different to your next door neighbours or your partners? It shows that you're unique. And so find out more about yourself, about what your likes and dislikes are, and perhaps why, and can you challenge that, and what your thoughts are about a particular topic, and can that be challenged, or is that, or do you want to keep that as it is for now? There's just always possibility for exploring something new and for change. And on this note, I do want to let you know, and I know we're going to be letting our coordinators know, Continentals this week, and then all our volunteers next week. But Chris and I have got a very exciting year planned ahead with our monthly spiritual topics. We are going to try, we won't be able to do it every single month, but we're going to try at least 8 months worth of new monthly spiritual topics. And we would like our continentals to ask our coordinators within their continents to ask the members, what topic would you like to explore? And we will try and choose the top most popular, well, we will choose the top most popular ones. And we're going to do a much shorter written piece, because we don't want to focus so much on the writing. There will be questions always to explore, But every time we have a new topic, Chris and I are going to be doing an hour to an hour and a half long podcast with Simon, and we'll be putting some questions to him and having this discussion with him. So it'll be within our Sacred Wisdom podcasts, but it will be more of a Q&A as well as a discussion, so that our members will be able to get Simon's thoughts on a topic. It won't be like our big Q&A where we ask Simon lots of different questions about lots of different topics in one go. It'll be focusing on one topic and lots of different nuances around it each month. Okay, so that's what we have lined up, and we will let you know in a week or so the first topic. We've got it and we are preparing it, and it's very exciting. And we were asked this by a particular member, a member in Mexico. So if our coordinator from Mexico, one of them, she will know that she has inspired us to do this. But I've been thinking about it all over Christmas and thought, yep, I want to go with this new topic. I want to do a whole load of new topics that the members want to do. So that's the direction that we're going in this year for our monthly spiritual topics.
So thank you, Becky, for sharing that. And I'd just like to add on to your comment about the discussion is really, that's where the magic happens. So for all of our CC members who are listening to this podcast, if you haven't participated in your local group discussions about the spiritual topic, think about it if that's something that you'd like to participate in this year. So even if you're a little shy or you're hesitant to share your ideas, you can just show up and listen, and you can ask yourself those questions. And then over time, if you want to participate, you can participate, or you can just listen quietly and look within. And just said, that is truly where the magic happens. I can say for me personally, and Becky and I are writing these topics, but every time I join a discussion, like I learn something and I get new ideas and bits and pieces, and we are all here to learn and grow together. And that is truly where the magic happens. And you will go way deeper with the topic. So I invite you to think about that this year and see where it takes you.
Thank you, Chris. So we haven't finished doing, this podcast, Sue.
Well, I just think that is so exciting, and I think members are going to love it, and I'm glad that Simon is willing. I've always wished he would be on Worldwide Voices or be interviewed. So the fact that you're going to do it over these spiritual topics is spectacular, because there was so much in earlier days when he talked about some of the unusual things. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I know on the German CC website, there's an archive of earlier Simon videos. Now, I haven't taken the time yet to go back. But I've got it marked so that I can someday, because that's priceless stuff in there. Although I'll tell you, I love what you, Chris and Becky, have been doing with monthly spiritual topics. And it's obvious how much the members love and appreciate it and have benefited from it. And I am so grateful that, Becky, that you came over and we did the Sacred Wisdom Tour, because even in the podcast, I've noticed both Becky and Chris, it's like you have, I don't know, you're just, you've been up leveled in some way. I'm not even going to make up the way. I just notice it's like, there's been an up leveling, and the level of what you're sharing and what you're doing and that kind of stuff is, and I think it's spectacular, like right on.
I think there is in everyone. I think there is in everyone. Anyone who's willing to participate, and it's about. I think what are the blocks? And we talked about blocks. What are the blocks to doing this? Some people feel that they're spiritual enough, or that their own spiritual journey is their business and no one else's. They don't want to share. Others feel that they just don't agree with what they perceive a topic to be like or about, so they don't want to get involved, or whatever. There are so many different reasons for different blocks, and we've been told a lot of them. At the end of the day, it's a reticence to I think it's more of a fear of what you might personally find out about yourself, or what you might personally have to deal with, or the work you have to do. Because we've done the foundational year. We did it in the first year when Chris and I wrote it, and then we did it again when way more people got involved, and our coordinators have been through facilitation skills courses. And anyone and everyone who participated at whatever level that they participated at felt that they'd gained so much from it. And I do know that the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. That's just like a basic law of the universe. If you put something in, then you will get a lot out, you know? And that's definitely true of our organization and participation within our organization. Because the spiritual laws work really, really well within our organization. And but if you can overcome the fear of what you might discover about yourself, then you reignite that total excitement for life, and you'll fall in love with yourself. And I think that's so important. I think that is the most important outcome, actually, is that when you do this, you learn about yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You will come across your blocks. You will come across the things when you think, I can't believe I ever said that or did that, or I hurt that person. And I know that when we die and we do our past life review, we get shown all the people that we've hurt and how we've hurt them when we feel it from their point of view. And I know I personally do that from time to time when and it hurts me to know I've hurt people in my life. And no one is perfect. When anyone who lives a life incarnated, there's no, oh, there's no getting away that we do hurt people from time to time, whether it's on purpose or accidentally. And we have to forgive ourselves for that. That's part of the journey. But if we learn to do that and to share with others, and this is a thing that some of our members have become really good at, are starting to share some of their personal experiences, starting to share some of their aha moments, and starting to heal. So it is the personal journey of healing and of forgiving yourself and of loving and accepting yourself for who and what you are. And from there, life opens up and becomes way more exciting. And this is the thing, there's no age limit on it whatsoever.
Well, and we are in such a pregnant time for that. Like even years ago, that would have been more difficult or harder. As this and new energy is happening, people like to talk about ascension or dimensions or whatever. Like as we're moving into becoming more of our true selves and knowing the truth of ourselves, things that are not like the we could say the blocks or the things that need to be dealt with are starting to come up very clearly. And that's where the fear is of what you might find out or what you might have to deal with. But what I want to say is now's the perfect time. There is way more help, way more magic of the universe to bring you the person, the opportunity, the book, the video, whatever that will help you move through that easier and with a clearer break than if you did it at any other time.
And trust yourself. I love that there's a Winnie the Pooh saying. It's like a character, a British storybook character, Winnie the Pooh, who says it's along the lines of, you are stronger than you feel, braver than you know, and braver than you think, and wiser than you know, or something like that, which basically means that you can handle any issue, you can handle any problem as long as you know it. You have your internal resource is greater than you could possibly imagine because you're not isolated. The well is bottomless. You have a connection and the energy from the universe, and you can draw from that and the knowledge and the wisdom. And once you understand that and understand that nothing else will judge you apart from yourself, those things can really be great building blocks, foundational blocks for recognizing that you can heal yourself. And in fact, other people can't really heal other people. It's all about the personal journey. It's all about finding the inner strength. Simon and I are watching Lord of the Rings again. It's a phenomenal trilogy, and we've been watching it for about 2 or 3 weeks in small bite-sized pieces. But the point of that, there's so many different personal journeys within the whole epic, saga. And one of them is the little hobbit, Frodo, who has to take this evil ring. He's been given, it's a very humble little hobbit. It's not a king or anyone else like that. A humble little hobbit who was minding his own business has been given the challenge of being the ring bearer, of carrying the weight of this very, very powerful object that could rule, all the dimensions. And he had to take it somewhere to get it destroyed. And nobody else could do that because anyone else would succumb from the power. It's too sort of seductive. And there's different points in that. One of them is it's about the personal journey and overcoming. I mean, this little hobbit climbs mountains and, walks through swamps and overcomes all kinds of deathly, devastating things. But he still achieves the end goal. And he does that with the help of his friends, and he does that with the help of, the universe and the magicians and anyone else, which shows that we are all on this personal journey. And while we're all given different responsibilities, and we all actually come in with different what's the word for it? Different reasons for being here in this incarnation, different things to overcome, and different what's the word? Missions, really, to carry out while we're here on Earth. I love the story of that because it can give us a lot of lessons and show us that we too have the energy reserves that we thought we didn't have. We too can overcome the challenging situations more so than we ever thought we could. I think that's where I wanted to go with that.
Becky, as you were talking, I also think as we're going through this travel, as we have to do like the little hobbit did and everything like that, we also do it in CC collectively. We've got this beautiful safety net, this space that we have created for people. And, Sue, as you were talking about sometimes it's okay for people to let go during that space if we create trust and they feel safe. When we keep talking about safe space, when I look out at some of our members and we've been on calls and the laughter, but also tears that sometimes happen, we know that we are touching deep in that heart, Becky, the hearts that you said, but we're lifting one another up during that time. It's an amazing, when we can look at ourselves and realize this amazing journey that we are on, it is incredible. It is absolutely miraculous. We had the word of the month for January called miraculous in North Carolina, and it is magical. It really is magical. But we have to get there, and we have to allow ourselves to go deep inside and be open, and then have that safety net of others around us. And to me, CC has such a great, great opportunity to have that for folks without judgment, that safe place.
Thank you, Paula. That's beautiful. It does. I mean, that's like, what we aim for. That is one of the best things about our organization. And we know it's going to be an exciting year. And we do want to support our members and carry our members with us on this exciting journey. It's about participation. It's, as little or as much as you want to get involved. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have been going for about an hour, and that feels like a good place to wrap up unless anyone has any final thoughts. I'd just like to summarize what Paula and Becky were just saying and what we have all talked about. CC is an amazing place to explore and to continue down. I know everybody in CC is on a spiritual journey of some sort, and wherever you are, to explore it in a place where it's safe and it's beautiful and there's not judgment of you. And I know for me, it helps me not to judge myself too, being in that kind of beautiful space. And so congratulations on being a part of CC. I know it's changed my life, and everyone that I talk to basically has some version of that, and it's really, really beautiful. So Becky, bless you and Simon for creating this beautiful organization. And that feels like a really, really good place to wrap up. So thank you all for joining. Sue and Paula, thank you for being a part of this magical podcast. And thank you all for watching it. And we'll see you next time.